Hi everyone, I'm back with another video from the Season 26 PTR. This time I want to talk about how I pushed with this new Raekor Barbarian. So you might have seen that there is a rework for Barbarian this time around. Raekor set becomes a boulder toss build now, so kind of back to the roots for that build. And it is actually kind of fun. I kind of like this, like charging around and then throwing the big rock. And it also has this mechanic where it like splits and flies in multiple directions, so it seems to kind of like go into like a cone AoE and have like 5 extra projectiles or something like that. And the idea is that you just charge into big monster packs. In my case, I also use the ground stomp, wrenching smash to stack the monsters up, and then I have big area damage. I hit all with all the boulders, and then there's also the battle rage bloodshed proccing that gives like another AoE explosion around you afterwards. So the interesting part in this setup is that I was actually playing with a shield equipped when I did this rank here, which was actually the rank 1 at that time. So people have pushed a little bit higher by now, and I can certainly also go higher. This was just basically first try at Paragon 800, so kind of low end stuff still. There is in fact a 150 clear on the non-seasonal leaderboard, but that is at 15k Paragon and also using a bit of a different setup. And obviously on a build that is extremely squishy like Raekor is, having many Paragons is very beneficial. So to put this into perspective a little bit, Raekor doesn't seem to be performing terribly bad right now, but I believe it's not really on the level where people would get really excited because it is quite squishy. And in particular, the single target damage is horrible on this set. I expect this will be changed. Also the fact that basically no one uses weapon throw to begin with, even though there is 2 items in this build actually buffing weapon throw, which still remains a cosmetic damage improvement anyway. But I guess the fact remains that Blizzard intended at least to have any kind of purpose in this build for weapon throw, and right now this is nowhere to be found. So I expect we're gonna get some purpose that is probably not damage dealing for weapon throw. At least this is what I would suggest, and also what I would expect, just to give us a more of like this ranged play style, this ranged barbarian fantasy, where you charge through them or charge into position, throw some rocks, and then you throw weapons and you throw more rocks, and repeat. So this would probably be the idea. I believe there could be a really cool combo between weapon throw and some single target like debuff or single target build up or something like this that you can use on the boss, because the boss fight is really like the one really terrible part of this whole thing. So there are definitely multiple avenues that the devs can explore to improve this. I'll just wait and see at this point. I have already given a lot of other suggestions for Raekor in another video. I'm not going to reiterate everything here. But I wanted to talk about this STORMSHIELD setup in particular because I actually felt this was quite hilarious, but at the same time I found it really cool to actually play with a shield, unironically pushing to the highest level I could, and it actually turned out to be pretty successful. There's even other people doing exactly the same, and I think also the current rank 1 guy on seasonal PTR is also doing the STORMSHIELD, so it has kind of drawn some attention. So here's the setup, the plan is in the description, and I just compared a bit of the numbers, and I realized that since the setup is so squishy, you usually actually run esoteric alteration to make up for any kind of damage reduction that the set is missing. And instead, I can actually take an offensive DPS gem. So in my case, I took the Bane of the Trapped. So you have the Stricken to kill the boss, we have the Zaze or the Trapped, and then you can put the 3rd gem in there for extra DPS. And you don't really need a lot of attack speed in this setup. So dual wielding and the dual wielding bonus that you get, which is the 15% attack speed bonus, doesn't really help you very much. And instead we had the shield, which has lots of melee damage reduction, a bit of armor. So 2000 armor is actually not insignificant. And you can also block attacks. So you actually reduce incoming attacks by a flat amount sometimes. And on top of this, there is a passive that is actually incredibly powerful. So support barbarians will know this, but it is called the Sword and Board passive. And this gives you another 30% damage reduction and 20% fury cost reduction, which obviously translates into even more damage reduction with Captain Crimson. So all in all, this one passive with the shield makes you, I don't know, more than twice as tanky, and suddenly you can actually survive almost everything quite well on this otherwise very squishy build. So this is the main reason why this works so well. The attack speed is kind of irrelevant, so you don't really lose much from having the shield there. You get the crit chance instead of the emerald. Emerald is a bit better because you have rather high crit chance already, so crit damage scales better in DPS. But aside from this, there's not really that much you lose. You lose a bit of area damage perhaps, but you gain so much toughness for just a tiny bit of damage and a passive. So this is actually really good, and then you have this third legendary gem. And if you look at the leaderboards, there's actually quite a few people at this point. Here's a shield, there's one here. So you actually see quite a popular choice actually. Personally, I gotta say I was particularly hyped for some Barbarian rework that would actually introduce a shield-based playstyle and maybe even some like new 2-piece set that goes next to Bulkados, where maybe you have some other mighty weapon and a shield, and those go together and make some kind of revenge playstyle and maybe overpower or something like that a viable option at some point. Or maybe if they ever plan to do some new 6-piece sets, that could be an option as well. Potentially simply including the shield into a set even. But anyway, we ended up with this for now, which actually feels very much like a support Barbarian if you ask me. So you have the Raekor set, which is support Barbarian users. You have this spear in hand, which is, you know, a typical transmogrification for the pick sticker that a support Barb has. You have the Storm Shield. So like half the setup is actually support Barb, and you charge around trying to make pulls, stomp them together in some cases. And then, okay, you have to boulder toss instead of the rage flip. Anyway, I had a lot of fun trying to push with this shield Barbarian, and the Raekor, as I said, feels kind of fun, but it has to have some issues. The low toughness is a problem, and the single target is a problem. So let's see and wait for the PTR update. I believe this is gonna change significantly, and then I'm gonna go back to testing it again and make another video. For now, this is what we have. Let me know what you think about the Raekor Barbarian. Is this gonna make you hyped about the new season? Is it gonna make you hyped to play Barbarian again? Especially if you consider that this is potentially getting buffed further to an actual S tier build. I think Barbarian is right now actually the only class that won't have an S tier build if they don't make Raekor a bit better. And I expect that it will be much better because this is kind of like the big rework of the season. So typically those builds end up very strong. I think if they remove some of these gimmicky mechanics like this wall charging and these kind of things and make it more about this mobility and the range playstyle, it could actually turn out to be some really cool alternative playstyle for Barbarians that otherwise have only those other melee builds to offer. So those are my 2 cents on the Barbarian. Hope you liked my little overview here. As I mentioned, I'm going to keep you guys posted on the Barbarian and other PTR stuff. So hope you liked this little video, and I'll see you guys next time.